Beneath the ocean's surface lies an entire lost chapter of human history. These submerged stone complexes are not natural formations, but the sunken cities of forgotten civilizations. In this exploration, you will discover how advanced technology is revealing these drowned worlds and why their existence forces us to rewrite our past. We will investigate mysterious structures found in the deep, from precise monuments off the coast of Japan to legendary cities spoken of in ancient texts. How does the story of a world reshaped by rising seas change your understanding of human resilience? The world these lost civilizations knew was utterly transformed by a single, overwhelming force. When the last great ice age ended, the planet's massive ice sheets, some over 2 miles thick, began to melt away. This was not a minor change in the weather. It was a global upheaval that released colossal volumes of water back into the oceans. The result was a staggering rise in sea level, climbing more than 120 meters over centuries. To put that in perspective, imagine the ocean climbing high enough to submerge a 40-story building. This was the post-glacial transgression, a term scientists use for the ocean's great advance. Coastlines did not simply inch backward, they were dramatically redrawn. In some parts of the world, the sea advanced rapidly, swallowing up to several kilometers of land in a single human lifetime. Vast, fertile coastal plains, the very cradles of early civilization, were inundated. These were not barren wastelands. They were the most desirable real estate for our ancestors, rich with resources from both land and sea, perfect for establishing the first permanent settlements and farms. Today, these ancient homelands form the continental shelf, a sunken world holding the secrets of societies that thrived there for millennia before the waters came. Their story is etched into the stone now resting on the ocean floor, waiting for us to listen. The debate over Yonaguni's origins hinges on a single, compelling question. Are we looking at the patient work of nature's tools or the deliberate hand of a forgotten people? The monument's sheer scale is breathtaking, a massive sandstone formation rising from the seafloor. Its surfaces are dominated by stark, straight lines and sharp, 90-degree angles that seem to defy random erosion. There are features that look strikingly like staircases ascending the rock, wide terraces, and even what some researchers interpret as a triangular pool. One prominent face of the structure bears markings that resemble a crude, monumental face, sometimes called the Moai of Yonaguni. For those who see human artistry here, these are not random shapes. They point to a culture capable of large-scale stonework, a society that would have needed to quarry, shape, and arrange these colossal blocks. The timing is the most provocative part of the puzzle. Geological data confirms this area was last above water around 10,000 years ago. If this is a man-made complex, it was constructed by a civilization thriving at the very end of the last ice age. This timeline challenges conventional narratives that place the development of such advanced stoneworking technologies much later in human history. Yet the alternative explanation carries its own weight. Skeptical geologists demonstrate how the strong currents in the region, combined with the natural fracturing of the sandstone bedrock, can produce remarkably straight lines and flat surfaces. They argue that what we perceive as architecture is a spectacular but entirely natural geological formation. This ongoing debate is far more than an academic argument. It forces us to confront a fundamental uncertainty in our understanding of the ancient world. If even one of these enigmatic underwater sites proves to be the work of human hands, our map of prehistoric human achievement must be dramatically redrawn. The silent stones of Yonaguni hold a secret that could reshape our entire past, a secret locked away by the rising sea. The silent debate over Yonaguni finds a powerful echo thousands of kilometers away in the coastal waters of India. Here, legend speaks of a city of unparalleled splendor, a capital so grand its fate was to be consumed by the ocean. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe Dwarka, the legendary kingdom of Lord Krishna, a metropolis adorned with palaces and bustling with trade. The stories say that upon Krishna's passing, the entire city was reclaimed by the sea, vanishing from sight and slipping firmly into the realm of myth. For generations, these accounts were read as powerful allegory, not historical record. Then, marine archaeologists began to explore the Gulf of Combat. What they found would challenge that very distinction. Sonar imaging did not reveal vague, ambiguous shapes. It mapped out what appeared to be the foundations of large, geometric structures, laid out in a clear, organized pattern across the seafloor. Subsequent dredging of the site brought up more than just silt. It recovered weathered stone blocks, pottery shards, and even artifacts that seemed to be shaped by human hands. These physical objects, resting at depths that align with a shoreline from over 9,000 years ago, provide a tangible connection to a past we thought was only a story. Perhaps the most compelling geological clue is the discovery of a submerged river channel near the structures. This suggests the site was not just coastal, but situated on a major waterway, a classic location for a thriving ancient urban center. The convergence of evidence is startling, a location that matches the ancient descriptions, structures that suggest human planning, and a timeline that coincides with a period of significant sea level rise. This is no longer just an archaeological site. It is a place where myth and history begin to merge, forcing us to reconsider the long-held memories preserved in our oldest stories. The stones of Dwarka whisper that some legends may not be mere fables, but the faded echoes of a real world lost beneath the waves. These underwater enigmas cannot be solved with shovels and brushes alone. Unlocking the secrets of these drowned cities demands an entirely different approach, a field of science that merges the detective work of history with the tools of deep-sea exploration. This is marine archaeology, a discipline dedicated to studying humanity's long and complex relationship with the sea, a relationship that often ended with the sea reclaiming the land. The fundamental challenge is the environment itself. On land, an archaeologist can see the site, carefully map it, and work for years under the sun. Underwater, visibility can drop to zero in an instant. Powerful currents threaten to sweep away both artifacts and archaeologists, while marine organisms relentlessly consume wood, cloth, and even stone. It is a constant race against time and the corrosive nature of the ocean. To overcome this, researchers rely on sophisticated remote sensing technology. From the safety of a research vessel, they deploy side-scan sonar, which paints a detailed acoustic picture of the seafloor, revealing the subtle contours of ancient foundations and roads. They use magnetometers to detect slight disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field, anomalies that can indicate the presence of hearths, pottery kilns, or metal tools buried in the sediment below. Only after this non-invasive survey creates a map of potential does the true investigation begin. Divers, encumbered by heavy gear and limited by depth, or more often, remotely operated vehicles, are sent down. These robotic explorers are the eyes and hands of the team, equipped with high-definition cameras and delicate manipulator arms to gently clear away centuries of silt and bring a single, telling artifact into the light for the first time in millennia. This slow, methodical, and incredibly precise process is how a forgotten potsherd or a strangely shaped stone is transformed from a meaningless object into a vital clue. Each piece, no matter how small, helps us reassemble the grand puzzle of a world we thought was lost forever, a world that now rests silently beneath the waves. The ocean's mysteries are not confined to the deep, murky waters of distant seas. In the sun-drenched shallows of the Bahamas, a discovery so clear and visible has sparked a debate that remains unsolved. Just off the coast of North Bimini, a pathway of stone stretches for nearly a kilometer across the white seabed. The Bimini Road is composed of massive, rectangular limestone blocks, each one fitting against its neighbor with an almost purposeful alignment. To the casual observer, it looks exactly like a sunken roadway or the foundation of a great seawall, a deliberate construction leading from one point to another. When it was first documented in the late 1960s, it immediately captured the public imagination. Here was something tangible, something you could swim over and see with your own eyes, that seemed to defy a simple natural explanation. The stones are simply too orderly, too uniformly shaped and placed to be easily dismissed. This apparent precision is the core of the argument. Those who see the work of an ancient culture point to the way the blocks interlock, suggesting a level of planning and engineering that nature rarely produces on its own. The site's allure is magnified by its location, a region rich with stories of a lost continent. It is easy to understand why some have looked at this underwater road and wondered if it is a remnant of Atlantis, a forgotten piece of a legendary world. Yet science offers a compelling counterargument. Geologists explain that what we call the Bimini Road is a perfect example of beach rock, a type of coastal sediment that naturally cements and fractures along straight lines. Over time, the same forces that created the stone also broke it into these remarkably geometric blocks. The constant action of tides and currents could have arranged them into the neat rows we see today. So, are we looking at a masterwork of prehistoric engineering, or one of nature's most incredible coincidences? The Bimini Road does not give up its secret easily. It stands as a powerful reminder that even in the clearest water, our vision into the past can remain clouded by questions. It challenges us to distinguish between what we wish to find and what actually lies beneath the waves, a silent enigma waiting for a definitive key. The silent stones on the ocean floor are no longer content to remain hidden. Unlocking their stories requires a new generation of eyes, tools that can see through the murky darkness and map the unseen. This is the cutting edge of underwater exploration, where technology is transforming a search for needles in a haystack into a precise science of discovery. At the forefront are multi-beam echosounders, systems that paint the seafloor not with light but with sound. From a ship on the surface, they emit a wide fan of acoustic beams, capturing the subtle rise and fall of the landscape below with astonishing clarity. The result is a three-dimensional map so detailed it can reveal the straight line of a potential wall or the geometric pattern of a foundation, anomalies that stand out starkly against the chaotic forms of nature. But what if the most important clues are buried? This is where sub-bottom profilers come in. These powerful instruments send low-frequency sound pulses deep into the seabed, penetrating layers of sand and silt to create a sonogram of what lies beneath. They can detect the ghostly outlines of structures completely hidden from view, the buried ruins of a settlement waiting for millennia to be found. Once a promising site is located, the documentation begins. Remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, descend equipped with arrays of high-definition cameras. They fly over the site in a carefully planned grid, capturing thousands of overlapping images. Back on the surface, powerful computers use a technique called photogrammetry to stitch these photographs together, constructing a photorealistic, three-dimensional digital model. Researchers can then explore this virtual ruin from every angle, taking measurements and studying details without ever disturbing a single stone on the seafloor. The innovation extends beyond mapping stone. Scientists can now analyze the chemistry of the water itself, searching for the subtle signature of freshwater springs that once bubbled up from the seabed. In a world dependent on fresh water, the location of these springs would have been the absolute cornerstone of any ancient community. Finding them is like finding a pin on an ancient map, marking the most likely spot where people would have built their homes. These tools are not just gadgets, they are the keys to a sunken world. They are turning vast, unexplored stretches of the continental shelf into a new frontier for archaeology. A frontier that promises to reveal the full, forgotten story of the civilizations that met the rising sea. The deep ocean guards its secrets well, but sometimes it offers a glimpse of something truly inexplicable. Off the western coast of Cuba, at a depth where sunlight is a forgotten memory, sonar images revealed a puzzle that defies easy explanation. A team of ocean engineers, while conducting a routine survey of the seafloor in 2001, mapped a series of astonishing formations. They found what appeared to be massive, symmetrical structures, some looking like great pyramids, resting on the seabed nearly 700 meters down. Alongside them were smooth, colossal stone blocks, arranged with a geometry that seems to whisper of intelligent design. The sheer scale of the site is humbling, suggesting a project of monumental ambition. It is a discovery that immediately ignites the imagination, pointing toward a society capable of such grand construction that its remnants now lie in the abyss. Yet this incredible depth is the very source of the mystery. 700 meters is far deeper than the ocean advanced after the last ice age. Even at the peak of the Ice Age, when sea levels were at their absolute lowest, this site would have still been submerged under a crushing volume of water. This simple, inescapable fact creates a profound dilemma. If these are man-made, how did a civilization build something so immense underwater? Or when did the land sink so catastrophically to carry it down? The timeline does not align with our current understanding of Earth's geological history. This has led scientists to propose other, equally fascinating possibilities. Could these perfectly angular forms be the result of a rare and powerful geological process, a kind of fracturing and erosion we have yet to fully understand? Or does their location hint at a previously unknown tectonic event, a sudden sinking of a vast landmass that current models have not accounted for? The Cuban pyramids remain a ghost image on a sonar screen, a profound question mark lying in the crushing dark. They challenge not only our view of human history but also our comprehension of the planet's stability, a silent enigma waiting in the deep for its story to be told. These underwater discoveries are doing more than just revealing lost cities. They are fundamentally rewriting the map of human history. For generations, the story of how the Americas were first populated was dominated by a single, compelling theory. It was called the Clovis First model, and it suggested that the earliest people crossed a land bridge from Siberia into Alaska around 13,000 years ago. They were thought to have traveled through an ice-free corridor, slowly spreading southward across the continents. This narrative was clean, logical, and supported by distinctive stone tools found at sites across North America. But the stones resting on the ocean floor are now telling a different, much older story. The potential age of a site like the one in the Gulf of Cambay, which could be 9,000 years old or even more, presents a profound challenge. How could there be evidence of human habitation in India from a time that, according to the old model, predates the settlement of the Americas? This contradiction has given rise to a powerful alternative, the coastal migration theory. This idea suggests that ancient peoples were not just land-bound travelers, but skilled mariners. They would have used boats to navigate along the coastlines, following a highway of rich marine resources. These now submerged continental shelves were not barren. They were lush, fertile plains teeming with life, offering an easier and faster route south than the treacherous inland path. Every bay, every river mouth along this forgotten coast could have been a temporary home, a resting place for communities on the move. If this theory is correct, it means that the true record of the first Americans, their earliest settlements and their greatest achievements, is not buried under the soil of the continents we know. It is resting at the bottom of the sea, a lost chapter of our collective journey. The rising waters did not just claim land, they may have swallowed the very evidence of humanity's first great voyage into a new world. Beneath the churning grey waters of the North Sea lies an entire vanished continent of Europe. This was Doggerland, a vast and fertile landscape that for millennia connected the British Isles to the mainland. It was not a barren bridge, but a thriving homeland of rolling hills, forested valleys, and meandering rivers. Using seismic data, much like a medical scan for the planet, researchers have mapped this sunken world in stunning detail, revealing a lost geography of lakes and marshes that once teemed with life. The evidence of who lived there is just as compelling. Dredged from the seabed are flint tools, carefully crafted by human hands, and the bones of mammoths and other great creatures bearing the unmistakable cut marks of butchery. We have even found the ghostly outlines of ancient hearths, the very spots where families gathered around a fire, sharing a meal in a world that no longer exists. This was a real place, inhabited by Mesolithic hunter-gatherers who followed the herds and harvested the rich resources of this expansive plain. Then, the water began to rise. It was a slow, inexorable process, a creeping transformation that unfolded over generations. The people of Doggerland would have watched their world gradually shrink, the forests giving way to salt marsh, the hunting grounds slowly flooding. They were forced into a long, managed retreat, moving their communities to ever higher ground as the sea claimed their ancestral lands. The final submersion around 6,500 BC was likely not a single catastrophic event, but the culmination of a relentless advance. One day, the highest hills disappeared, and the North Sea as we know it was born. Doggerland offers us perhaps the most complete and poignant example of a civilization entirely reshaped by a changing climate. It is not a myth or a speculative theory, but a documented historical reality of resilience in the face of an overwhelming environmental shift, a story written in silt and stone on the ocean floor. Yet pinning a precise date to these silent stones is one of archaeology's greatest challenges. How do you determine the birthday of a ruin that has been underwater for millennia? The process is far from simple, a delicate scientific puzzle where every clue must be carefully interpreted. When divers recover a piece of wood or a fragment of bone from within the structure, scientists can use radiocarbon dating. This technique measures the steady decay of radioactive carbon in organic material, telling us when that specific tree was cut down or when that animal lived. But here lies the first complication. That piece of wood could have been from a tree that was already centuries old when it was used for construction, or it could be from a later shipwreck that happened to land on the ruins. The date of the material is not always the date of the building. For the stone itself, which holds no carbon, researchers turn to another method. Optically stimulated luminescence, or OSL, can determine the last time a stone was exposed to sunlight. When minerals like quartz are buried or built into a wall, they begin to store energy from natural background radiation. By measuring this stored energy in a lab, scientists can calculate how long it has been since the sun last touched that stone. If a block was quarried and quickly placed into a wall, this gives a very close estimate of the construction date. But if the stone was reused from an even older site, the date becomes misleading. To anchor these findings, scientists cross-reference everything with the known history of the sea. They have detailed charts called sea level curves that show how the ocean has risen over thousands of years. By matching the depth of a submerged city with the time when the sea was at that level, they can establish a window of time when the site was last dry land. This multi-pronged approach, using chemistry, physics, and geology together, is the only way to build a reliable timeline. It is a process of triangulation where each method helps to verify and refine the others. Even then, the story is not always set in stone. A single new discovery, a piece of pottery found in a deeper layer of sediment, can force a complete reassessment of a site's age. This ongoing refinement is not a sign of failure, but the very heartbeat of science, a relentless pursuit of a truth that the ocean has done its best to obscure. The silent ruins of Atlit offer a uniquely intimate window into a Neolithic world. Submerged under the Mediterranean Sea just off the coast of Israel, this ancient village is not a collection of mysterious monuments, but a complete, preserved community. Its stone foundations outline the footprints of houses where families lived more than 8,000 years ago. A ceremonial circle of massive stones stands as a testament to their spiritual life, while deep freshwater wells, now filled with seawater, speak to their daily struggle for survival. This is not a city of legend, but a tangible, heartbreakingly real snapshot of a village caught in a slow-moving crisis. The most telling finds are not grand treasures, but quiet, personal details. Archaeologists discovered a simple basket, its contents still holding the bones of a final meal of fish. This single artifact, preserved by the very sediments that buried the village, connects us directly to a moment in time, to an individual who lived and worked here millennia ago. Analysis of the community's remains reveals another profound layer to their story, showing signs of health challenges, including what researchers identify as one of the earliest known instances of tuberculosis. This evidence paints a picture of a people facing multiple pressures. The true end for Atlit was not a single, catastrophic wave. It was a creeping, relentless advance. As sea levels rose, salt water began to seep into the aquifers, poisoning the village's vital freshwater wells. Without clean water, the community's foundation crumbled. They were not instantly wiped out, but were forced to make a difficult choice to gather their belongings and abandon the only home they had ever known. Their story is a powerful reminder that the greatest historical changes are often not sudden explosions, but slow, environmental shifts that reshape the world, leaving only silent stones and buried baskets to tell the tale. These ancient flood myths, told for thousands of years, suddenly carry a new and startling weight. The story of a great deluge is not unique to one culture. It is a shared memory whispered across the globe. From the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh to the biblical account of Noah, from Hindu scriptures to the legends of indigenous peoples in the Americas, the narrative is hauntingly similar. A world is cleansed or punished by an immense, catastrophic flood, with only a chosen few surviving to repopulate the earth. For centuries, these were interpreted as powerful moral parables or theological allegories. But what if they are something more? What if they are the long, distorted echoes of a real and terrifying event witnessed by our ancestors? The geological record confirms a period of rapid and dramatic sea level rise. For the people living on those low-lying coastal plains, this was not a slow, imperceptible change. It was a series of devastating incursions. A single powerful storm surge could have inundated a village in a single day, forcing survivors to flee inland with stories of the ocean swallowing the land. Over generations, these traumatic accounts would have been shaped and amplified, transforming a real environmental disaster into a world-encompassing myth. The Welsh legend of Cantre Gwaelod, a fertile kingdom lost to the waves when a well was left unattended, perfectly mirrors the geological reality of a sinking coastline. Aboriginal Dreamtime stories describe land bridges that once connected Australia to other lands, bridges that were indeed submerged as the seas rose. The universality of the flood myth is no longer a curious coincidence. It is a potential collective memory of the post-glacial transgression, a story passed down from parent to child for over 7,000 years. These legends become a kind of oral history, a deeply encoded warning of a time when the shorelines of the world were redrawn and entire ways of life vanished forever beneath the rising tide. The murky waters of the Bay of Cambay guard a secret that pushes the boundaries of time itself. Far from the legendary city of Dwarka, a separate and profound discovery was announced in 2001, one that sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Sonar surveys revealed not just a few scattered ruins, but a sprawling complex of large, geometric structures spread across an astonishing 9 kilometers of seabed. The sheer scale of the site suggested the remains of a vast, organized settlement, a metropolis lost to the sea. The initial evidence pulled from the silt seemed to confirm an incredible age. Fragments of wood and pottery recovered from the site were subjected to radiocarbon dating, and the results were staggering. They pointed to a time around 7,500 BC. If accurate, this would place the foundation of this complex at nearly 9,500 years before the present, a date that predates the earliest known urban centers of Mesopotamia by millennia. This was not just an old site, it was a potential anomaly that could rewrite the entire timeline of human civilization, suggesting a sophisticated society at a time when most of humanity was still in the hunter-gatherer stage. Yet, the very conditions that preserved the site also fuel intense debate. The bay is notorious for its powerful, silt-laden currents, which reduce visibility to near zero and make sustained underwater excavation nearly impossible. Skeptics argue that the sonar images, while compelling, could be mapping natural geological features like ancient riverbed channels or sandstone formations that have fractured into deceptively regular shapes. They also question the dating, suggesting that the recovered wood and pottery could have been carried by currents from a much later period and deposited atop older, natural bedrock. This leaves the Cambay ruins in a state of suspended judgment. Is this the ghost of one of the world's first cities, a civilization that rose and fell during an ancient cycle of climate change? Or is it a magnificent geological illusion, a trick of the light and sound played on instruments by a restless sea? Until technology can overcome the bay's challenging environment, this sunken world remains one of archaeology's most tantalizing and unresolved mysteries, a silent question mark on the ocean floor. Nature is the ultimate illusionist, capable of crafting deceptions that challenge our very perception of history. One of the most significant challenges in underwater archaeology is telling the difference between a forgotten human masterpiece and a spectacular geological counterfeit. The planet's natural forces are master architects, routinely producing formations that appear meticulously planned. The slow cooling of certain types of rock, like basalt, can cause it to fracture into near-perfect hexagonal columns, creating landscapes that look like paved roads or the foundations of colossal buildings. Along coastlines, the relentless, rhythmic force of tidal erosion can carve flat platforms and sheer cliffs with surfaces that seem dressed by tools. Even the phenomenon of tessellated pavement, where rock fractures into a grid of rectangular blocks, can lay out a pattern on the seabed that is almost impossibly orderly. A classic example of such a deception exists at St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall. For years, a formation of remarkably geometric stone blocks submerged at high tide was identified as the Roman docks, a remnant of ancient maritime engineering. Further geological study, however, revealed the truth. This was not the work of Roman engineers, but a perfect natural occurrence of a granite outcrop that had fractured along its natural joints, creating a convincing illusion of human construction. So how do researchers cut through nature's clever mimicry? The proof lies in the details that nature alone cannot replicate. Archaeologists become detectives searching for the definitive signature of human activity. They look for the subtle, parallel grooves left by a stone chisel, the presence of mortar binding stones together, or the arrangement of smaller stones to fill gaps in a wall. Perhaps the most telling clues are the objects of daily life. Finding pottery shards, stone tools, or the bones of meals scattered among the stones creates a context that geology cannot fabricate. Most conclusively, they seek structures with an undeniable functional purpose, a circle of stones that aligns with celestial bodies, a chamber that could only be a tomb, or the clear, deep excavation of a freshwater well. These are the undeniable marks of a conscious planning mind. The silent stones on the ocean floor hold their secrets tightly, and our greatest task is learning to hear the difference between the whisper of the earth and the echo of a human hand. The silent stones of Malta speak in echoes. Deep beneath the modern island lies the Hal Saflieni hypogeum, an underground labyrinth carved over 5,000 years ago as a sacred resting place. This is no simple cave, it is an architectural marvel, a structure excavated from solid limestone with a precision that defies its age. But its true mystery is not just in its form, but in its sound. Researchers studying the hypogeum's acoustics made a startling discovery. Certain chambers are tuned to specific resonant frequencies, where a single voice can be amplified into a profound, enveloping hum that seems to vibrate through the very stone. This was not an accident. The builders engineered this space for sound, creating an environment where ritual chanting or drumming could produce powerful sensory experiences, perhaps intended to bridge the gap between the physical world and the spiritual one. This mastery of sonic architecture gives new meaning to an ancient local legend. Stories passed down for generations tell of a temple that once stood near the coast, a place where oracular voices could be heard rising mysteriously through the water itself. For centuries, this was dismissed as pure myth, yet the legend finds a startling anchor in modern discovery. Off the coast of Malta, sonar surveys have mapped the seabed, revealing large, rectangular stone blocks resting at depths that align with the ancient shoreline. These submerged monoliths have the same scale and shape as the blocks used in Malta's famous above-ground temples like Haga Kim and Mnajdra. They are not yet confirmed to be a temple, but their presence is a powerful clue. They suggest that the incredible megalithic culture that shaped the islands above the water did not stop at the coastline. Their sacred landscape likely extended out onto what was then dry land, a fertile plain that now lies silent under the Mediterranean. The acoustic genius of the hypogeum and the whispered legend of the oracular temple may not be separate tales. They could be two parts of a single story, a story of a people who understood the power of sound and stone, and whose greatest works may still be waiting, unheard, beneath the waves. This ancient echo of environmental change resonates with a chilling familiarity today. The forces that slowly submerged Doggerland and forced the exodus from Atlit were part of a natural planetary cycle. But the script has now been rewritten by human hands. The relentless, human-driven warming of our atmosphere is accelerating the melting of ice sheets at a pace that may soon mirror the great floods of prehistory. We are not just observers of this story, we are now living inside its next chapter. The silent ruins on the seafloor offer more than just archaeological intrigue. They provide a sobering case study in civilizational resilience. These lost cultures teach us that the most profound threats are often not sudden invasions, but the slow, creeping transformation of the very landscape that sustains a society. Their experience reveals a universal truth that communities with the capacity to adapt, to migrate, and to fundamentally change their way of life were the ones who endured. What does this mean for our modern world, with its vast, immovable coastal cities and complex global networks? The inundation of ancient coastal plains meant the loss of the most fertile and resource-rich lands, the very heart of their food production and economic strength. Today, we face the potential loss of our own foundational regions, from megacities to agricultural deltas, threatening global stability. The stones beneath the waves stand as a permanent memorial. They are a testament to the undeniable power of a shifting climate, a power that does not distinguish between a Neolithic village and a modern metropolis. They remind us that the ocean's advance is the ultimate arbiter of human geography, and that our future may well be written by how wisely we heed the lessons of the drowned. High in the thin air of the Andes, a different kind of submerged mystery challenges our expectations. Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world, holds ruins not of a city, but of a lost shoreline. Beneath its famously clear, cold waters near the sacred Isla del Sol, a strange landscape unfolds. Researchers have mapped a series of carefully built stone cairns and a long, paved pathway stretching into the deep. These are not random piles of rock. The cairns are deliberately constructed, and the road is a purposeful line cutting across the lake bed, a route that now leads nowhere. The depth of these structures is the crucial clue. They lie far below the modern lake's surface, indicating they were built on dry land at a time when the region was gripped by a severe, long-lasting drought. The lake's water level was dramatically lower, exposing vast new tracts of land for settlement. This reveals that the threat of water was not always about too much, but sometimes about too little, followed by a devastating return. The Inca spoke of their origins emerging from the sacred waters of Lake Titicaca. These submerged cairns and the forgotten road may be the tangible evidence of that deeper truth, not of the Inca themselves, but of an earlier culture, perhaps a precursor to the great Tiwanaku civilization. These people would have thrived on the fertile, exposed lake bed, building their communities and their ceremonial paths, only to see their world slowly reclaimed by the rising lake when the climate shifted once more. Here, the story is reversed, a reminder that ancient civilizations faced a changing world on all fronts, their legacies now resting in the most unexpected places, from the deepest ocean to the highest mountain lake. Uncovering these lost worlds brings a profound responsibility. Each archaeological site is a frozen moment in time, but a submerged one is also a final resting place. Researchers are often faced with the decision of whether to excavate a location that holds the remains of the people who once lived there. This is not a simple choice. The scientific value of understanding their lives, their health, and their culture is immense, yet it must be balanced against a deep respect for the sanctity of the site. The guiding principle becomes one of minimal disturbance, treating every find not as a mere object, but as a piece of someone's story. This ethical tightrope extends beyond the site itself to the question of ownership. When a trove of artifacts is recovered from the open ocean, far from any modern nation's coastline, who does it truly belong to? Is it a treasure for the discoverer, a patrimony for the nearest country, or a legacy that belongs to all of humanity? There are no easy answers, and international laws are still catching up to these deep-sea dilemmas. Compounding this is the constant threat of looting. The moment a significant discovery is made public, it can act as a beacon for treasure hunters. These looters are not careful scientists. They operate with destructive haste, using methods that tear apart delicate structures and scatter priceless context to the winds, all for a handful of sellable objects. Their work erases the very information that gives those objects their historical meaning. For all these reasons, many archaeologists now advocate for a strategy of preservation in situ, a Latin term meaning to leave it in place. The ocean floor, while hostile, can be a remarkable preservative. A wooden tool or a woven basket that would rapidly decay on land might be stable for centuries under layers of protective silt. The argument is that if we cannot excavate with the utmost care or guarantee the artifact's preservation once they are brought into the air, then the most respectful and scientifically sound action is to wait. It is a patient acknowledgement that the best tool for the job might not exist yet, and that the secrets of the deep are sometimes safest right where they are. Herod the Great's grand ambition now lies broken beneath the Mediterranean waves. Caesarea Maritima was not a prehistoric settlement lost to time, but a deliberate marvel of Roman engineering, a testament to human will defying the sea itself. Constructed as a showcase port city, its magnificent harbor was once one of the largest artificial facilities in the ancient world, a bustling center of trade and power. Today, its colossal stone breakwaters, intricate foundation blocks, and even a toppled statue rest silently on the seafloor. This is not a mystery of origins, but a documented story of a slow-motion collapse. We know exactly who built it, when, and why. Its submersion was caused by a 1-2 punch of natural forces, a gradual rise in sea level combined with a subtle but persistent sinking of the land itself, a process known as tectonic subsidence. The very ground upon which this engineering triumph was built was, over centuries, giving way. Because its history is so well recorded, Caesarea offers archaeologists something priceless, a controlled experiment in how the sea claims human works. It is a perfect time capsule of decay. Researchers can study the precise patterns in which the massive concrete blocks of the breakwater have fractured and settled. They can map how sediments have filled the harbor basin, preserving smaller artifacts in a protective blanket. They can observe how marine organisms have colonized the fallen columns, turning monuments into ecosystems. This detailed knowledge is a key that helps us interpret other, more ancient sites. By understanding how a known Roman port fell, we can better piece together the fate of those lost cities from a much deeper past, whose stories are written only in stone. Caesarea stands as a stark and elegant bridge, connecting the legendary drowned worlds to our own documented history, a reminder that even the greatest empires must eventually negotiate with the ocean. The vast majority of our planet's drowned landscapes remain a complete mystery. We have mapped the surfaces of Mars and the Moon in greater detail than our own continental shelves, these sunken plains that were once the thriving heartlands of humanity. The search is now accelerating, driven by a new generation of robotic explorers. Autonomous underwater vehicles are transforming the hunt, gliding silently through the deep for days or even weeks on a single mission. Freed from the limitations of a human crew, these AI-powered scouts can systematically map thousands of square kilometers of seabed, painting the most comprehensive picture of our submerged past we have ever seen. The data they bring back is so immense that we need artificial intelligence to help us sift through it. Sophisticated algorithms are being trained to scan the endless sonar maps. their digital eyes learning to spot the subtle, straight lines and geometric patterns that a human might miss, instantly flagging the most promising anomalies for further investigation. Another frontier is opening at the top of the world. As the Arctic ice continues to retreat, it is exposing coastlines that have been locked in ice for thousands of years. These newly accessible seabeds were dry land during the peak of the Ice Age, forming a potential highway for the very first people to enter the Americas. We may soon find the campsites and tools they left behind, preserved in the cold, dark depths, offering definitive proof of their coastal journey. The next decade will not just add a few more dots to the map. It promises to reveal an entire lost world, rewriting the story of human civilization from the bottom of the sea. A remarkable pattern materializes when you connect the dots on a world map. These submerged sites are not isolated curiosities. They form a global archipelago of lost history. From the stark formations off Yonaguni to the geometric structures in the Gulf of Cambay, from the drowned plains of Doggerland to the enigmatic pyramids of Cuba, the evidence tells a consistent story. This is not a search for one mythical continent, but the sobering recognition that countless vibrant coastal societies were erased from the map by the same planetary event. The rising seas did not discriminate, they claimed entire cultures across the globe. This shared experience suggests a profound gap in our historical record, a missing chapter detailing early human innovation, trade networks, and cultural exchange that flourished on now drowned continental shelves. These were not primitive outposts, but likely the very heartlands of their time, the most fertile and resource-rich environments available to our ancestors. Their disappearance beneath the waves created a historical blind spot, a bias in our archaeology that favors the sites that remained on dry land. Recognizing this global pattern is the crucial first step in a grander project, the rewriting of our collective past to include the stories of those who thrived along the forgotten shores. The hunt for these sunken worlds often starts from an orbit high above the Earth. Advanced satellites peer down, their multispectral sensors analyzing the ocean's surface for subtle anomalies. A slight change in the water's color or clarity can be a vital clue, a faint signature of something large and artificial resting on the seabed far below. For shallower coastal waters, the view becomes even more precise with aerial surveys using LIDAR technology. This system fires millions of laser pulses from an aircraft, and a fraction of these penetrate the water's surface, bouncing off the seafloor to create a breathtakingly detailed three-dimensional map of the submerged landscape. This top-down strategy is a monumental shift in archaeology. Instead of launching expensive and risky expeditions into the vast, unknown blue, researchers can now scan thousands of square kilometers from the sky, identifying the most promising targets with incredible efficiency. It transforms an endless search into a focused investigation, guiding ships and divers directly to the echoes of the past. This is the power of remote sensing, a suite of tools that lets us see through the water's reflective veil, turning the entire ocean surface into a transparent map dotted with the ghostly footprints of civilizations we are only just beginning to remember. This powerful allure of the deep presents a unique challenge in the modern world of information. The mystery of a lost city resonates far beyond academic journals, capturing headlines and fueling countless documentaries. This public passion is the lifeblood of archaeology, generating the excitement and funding that allows expeditions to set sail. Yet that same passion can sometimes outpace the slow, careful march of science. A dramatic sonar image can be presented as definitive proof of Atlantis, while the complex, often ambiguous evidence behind it is streamlined for a compelling narrative. When subsequent research suggests a natural formation, the public narrative can swing from triumphant discovery to dismissed myth, leaving a sense of disappointment in its wake. The true story is rarely so black and white. A site like the Bimini Road is not a simple yes or no. It is a question that pushes our understanding of both geology and human history, a puzzle that remains intellectually thrilling even without a fantastical answer. The responsibility therefore rests on both creators and consumers of this information. For scientists and filmmakers, it means championing the genuine mystery without sacrificing nuance, sharing the evidence for all possibilities with transparency. For the audience, it is an invitation to fall in love with the investigation itself, with the meticulous process of asking questions, challenging assumptions, and slowly piecing together a truth that is often more complex and more fascinating than any fiction. The greatest discovery may not be a single city, but a new way of seeing our own past, one that embraces uncertainty as the very space where real learning begins. From the stark terraces of Yonaguni to the silent forests of Doggerland, these submerged stone complexes are far more than ancient ruins. They stand as a permanent testament to the incredible dynamism of our planet, a world in constant, slow-motion flux. More importantly, they speak to the dual nature of human civilization, showcasing both our profound resilience in the face of overwhelming change and our ultimate vulnerability to the forces of nature. Each discovered block and mapped foundation forces us to expand our historical horizons, to look beyond the dry land we know and acknowledge that entire chapters of the human story were written on landscapes that now rest at the bottom of the sea. This is not a niche archaeological curiosity. It is a fundamental rewriting of our origins, as we now face our own era of rapid climate change and rising oceans. These ancient echoes from the deep serve as a powerful, sobering reminder. They illustrate our deep and inextricable connection to the environment, a connection that can both sustain us and reshape our world beyond recognition. The search for these lost worlds continues with renewed urgency, driven by advanced technology and a growing understanding of our past. With every new sonar image and every artifact gently raised from the seabed, we piece together a more complete and perhaps more humbling picture of our shared human journey, a journey forever linked to the changing rhythm of the sea. If this journey into the depths has captivated you, consider the countless other secrets the ocean still holds. You can help us continue exploring these mysteries by liking this video and subscribing to the channel with notifications turned on, so our next adventure finds you the moment it arrives. We are truly curious to hear your perspective in the comments below. Tell us which of these submerged sites you find most compelling and why it resonates with you. The ocean floor is a vast library of lost human stories, and with your engagement, we can work together to bring more of them to the surface. Thank you for your time and your curiosity. Never stop exploring.